Alright people, what's good? Welcome back to another episode of GNG News. So this video is going to make you rethink pre-ordering games. Now I've pre-ordered quite a few games from Mortal Kombat X to Batman Arkham Asylum. Even for games for my partner, I've pre-ordered some Sims games for her. I'm trying to think what was the first game I ever pre-ordered. One of the first games I think I ever pre-ordered was maybe Tekken 5 from like Game Station many years ago. But anyways, pre-ordering games sometimes can be good, sometimes it can be bad. So games have got to the point now, a lot of the times when a game gets released, it's not in actual playable state. They release games normally in like beta versions of the games, and then they release loads of patches and updates that kind of go on for a little cycle until the game actually reaches the point of it being playable and it being to the level that it should be when it's released. A lot of the time this comes down to too much hype and anticipation for a game, so games companies kind of roll with it, bring the game out early and then slowly put all these patches in. I don't really think that's a good aspect of the gaming industry. I feel like games should always come out in a completed state, and I would rather allow games to be completed and then come out than pre-order a game and it doesn't turn out to be the game that you want it to be. So one of the reasons that I'm kind of staying away from pre-orders, my first reason, a game that I and Abster have enjoyed for many years back in the day on the PlayStation 2 was the Prince of Persia, the Sands of Times. There's like several different games that were in that franchise. Prince of Persia was a fantastic game. The PS3 newer updated version of it was not great, but the old PlayStation 2 games, they were phenomenal. And for years there's been this ongoing thing about them apparently remastering the original PlayStation 2 games, putting them on the PS4 and PS5. I use a PS5, Abster uses the PS4. They then came out and they gave it to a different company to make the game. They've completely changed the whole aspect of the game. It's not what we were previously going to get. Now the game is not even about the prince himself. You're playing as guardians, which is just weird. But that game has been in pre-order hell for like over at least a year, with people just trying to get any sort of update that they possibly can. But the one game that really has put me off pre-ordering games from now is a franchise that you guys know I love dearly, which is Star Wars. So Star Wars had a game that was set to come out, well, it was announced, and they started taking pre-orders in 2020. I think we all know what this game is. This is the Lego Skywalker Saga. There was pre-orders everywhere. You could pre-order on Amazon, Game, even supermarkets, online. So many different places you could pre-order. You could get it on CD Keys. Shout out to CD Keys. Still been using CD Keys for the longest amount of time to get myself games. Go and check them out if you want to get yourself some decent games at some really great competitive prices. But anyways, I was using Game at the time in Cardiff. The game that I went to, it doesn't even exist anymore because after lockdown they got rid of that store, and then they started putting games in smaller stores like in House of Frasers and Sports Directs and so on and so forth. I think they just couldn't survive the fact that everything got locked down, so they weren't able to make any money. But anyways, I pre-ordered this game, right? And when I pre-ordered this game, I can't remember the exact date, but it was like in the middle of 2020. The game did not come out until like 2022. Okay, so there was pre-ordered, then they said it was going to come out, then like COVID was their excuse of why it didn't come out, which is understandable. Then there was something to do with the dev team. Then there was like, they just kept pushing it back because they said it wasn't in like the state that they wanted to bring it out in, and I understand that, but it took 5 years in development to make a Lego Star Wars game. Now, I'm not a game developer or a game designer, but I would generally think like an RPG would take a lot longer to develop compared to a Lego game. Maybe they had licensing problems, maybe it was like they had to lay people off due to COVID and whatever else, or maybe just, I don't know what the actual problem was, but for some reason we didn't get this game for like over 2 years. Now when it came out, I'll be honest, I still play that game till today. There's a lot of replayability in that game due to it being 2 players, so many levels, collectibles, and like all the add-ons and bits and pieces that they added after the game had released. But a game taking over 2 years to release was absolutely ridiculous, and it brought me to the conclusion, with all these new games that I've seen coming out, I have not pre-ordered anything. Like for example, Disney Speedstorm. It's a game that I played quite a lot. Shout out to Abs, she was the one who introduced me to the game. She got it on pre-order. I didn't. I waited a week for it to come out, and I just bought it at its standard price. Because the other thing as well with the pre-orders, yes, I could understand if you get early access to the game. I can understand if you get something that makes the game more significantly fun for you to play. But when you get a game and it's pre-ordered and it turns up and it's not in a playable state, and like me, if you're a content creator and it turns up early, some games you can't post early because you'll actually be getting yourself into a lot of legal trouble. I've ended up with a lot of games early because of like Amazon and whatever else, and them just, you know, delivering it to my door at an earlier time than it's supposed to. That's not good if you're a streamer, because you can't put that content up before everybody else puts it up. Like, for example, if you got Breath of the Wild before it came out and you uploaded content like 2 or 3 weeks before, and you would end up getting all those videos flagged, and you probably lose a lot of money by doing this. So that's another reason why, for me personally, I don't want to pre-order games. Because by pre-ordering games, you're always going to pay their full price, unless you buy it on CD keys. You generally will always pay their full price. And is it really worth having a game a couple of days early? Another game that I actually can't, this is the only time ever I have cancelled a pre-order, and I'm glad that I have, because it just was not received the best. The Marvel Avengers game, the Square Enix one, that a lot of us were really hyped for because of how they advertised it, how they made it look. You know, it looked like a fantastic game, but that game was so boring. And I remember getting the beta testing code for it and playing that, and we only had limited characters. And at the time when we were playing it, I even said it's fun, but the mechanics of the game feel really slow. And the thing I didn't like was, you know, like Hulk picking up opening a loot crate, and it kind of felt like Destiny, but with Marvel Avenger characters and Marvel characters in this universe. They totally messed up Spider-Man as well. I'm one of these people that plays on the PlayStation, so because of playing on the PlayStation, you were able to play with Spider-Man. But they literally completely destroyed that game. It wasn't even released in like a good playable state. And now, after like over a year and them giving people all these free DLC and this sort of stuff, now it's okay. But it just took too long for them to actually get the game into a real playable state that is enjoyable for other people. So that's another reason why I am not going to be pre-ordering games, and that's the only time I've ever cancelled a pre-order, just due to the fact that it came closer to the game releasing. And normally, like, a good sign of a game being good is that the closer to it releases, there's more hype and anticipation. My hype and anticipation for that game completely died because all of the like beta testers who had tested the game more so than what I had, because I only had like I think if you pre-ordered it, you got like a weekend to play the game or something. But there were people who were putting up gameplay of it, and they were just saying, no, it's janky, it's broken. And the thing that I couldn't get over with that game was they ruined the mechanics of Spider-Man. They should have like been inspired by the mechanics of the two brilliant Spider-Man games, you know, Miles Morales and the Spider-Man game previously to that had come out. They completely just, the Spider-Man didn't really feel playable. The characters weren't interesting. It wasn't really an interesting story. You know, it kind of felt like Horde mode, but with Marvel Avenger characters. And yeah, it just did not work, and that was another reason that kind of took me away completely from wanting to pre-order games. Also, when you pre-order games, there's like a tier system. So there's normally like a ridiculously expensive one that's like £200 to £500. Look at Mortal Kombat, look at some of the other ones that have come out in like recent years. Trust me, you can spend a lot of money if you want to get like a specific pre-order of a game, like the collector's edition. Then they have like a founder's edition, then they have like a deluxe edition, and then normally the pre-order edition. These, for me personally, unless you're going to get something like, you know, say you got Call of Duty and you got all them DLCs, I can understand. But when you get stuff like, I've had things before, like I had a statue for The Witcher 3. I had a Gears of War emblem thing years ago, even though I don't even have a 360. I just remember buying one at a boot sale and it came with some emblems and stuff. The collector's part of buying games is only really for collectors. You're not going to spend £200 to £300 to have a specific version of a game with medals and icons and all these sorts of things, because it doesn't really make sense for actually playing the game itself. And that's another thing that always comes into my mind when it comes to pre-ordering. But as I said, I don't pre-order games anymore, just due to the simple fact of I don't want to pay full price for a game. I don't really have a lot of faith in games when they first release, due to the fact that we get a lot of patches and stuff, to actually sort the game out to it being in a playable state. And like games are getting ridiculous now. Like games cost, without pre-ordering, £60 to £70 because I'm on a PlayStation 5. I can, luckily enough, because I have the disc edition, I can play PS4 games, but it seems counterproductive to do that, because why have a system that enables you to play games in a better state and then choose to play them in a PS4 version? It's kind of a bit stupid. So I am completely drawn away from wanting to pre-order games. Let me know in the comment section down below, what is the longest that you've waited to pre-order a game? I know someone's going to say like Cyberpunk or something like that, or like one of the Diablo series games that they've waited years to come out. But yeah, after waiting, I think it was probably nearly 2.5 years, I waited for that game to come out. And do you know what the best thing was? It actually exceeded my expectations of what I wanted. So that was the only time I wasn't disappointed with waiting that long. But like, I waited all through COVID. COVID had been and gone, and then they were just like, yeah, okay, we're going to drop the game now. Yeah, I don't think it's a very good practice when it comes to buying games. Always check the date of when a game's coming out, and just see if it gets pushed back or not, and just see if it's worth your time. But the only thing I would say to anybody when buying a new game these days, do a lot of research, find out if it's something you want to play. Don't initially believe trailers, because a lot of the times what people don't realise is that when you watch a trailer, you're watching a cutscene. You're not actually watching gameplay. A lot of the time, if you look around the screen or you pause the screen, you'll find somewhere that'll say not actual gameplay or pre-alpha footage or something like that. Don't believe the hype. Wait for devs to play it. Wait for people who get like beta codes of the game to play it. Actually, wait for people who get beta codes of the game to play it, because they're more likely to give you an unbiased review of a game compared to someone who's a developer on the game. They're obviously going to say the game is good because they're part of that project. But yeah, read reviews, watch gameplay, do research, work out if it's worth your time, and then go to cdkeys.com and type in the name of the game that you want, whether it's on Switch, whether it's on Xbox, PlayStation or PC, and buy it through there, just because you'll save money. Generally, every game that I buy these days, I buy through CD Keys, and if it's a brand new game, I normally save £20 to £30. Whether, depending on what console it's on, I have a Switch, I have a PC, and I also have a PS5. But yeah, check them out. Easy way for you to save money. But as I said, do research. Let me know in the comment section down below, what is the longest amount of time you have had to wait for a game to come out? And have you ever cancelled a pre-order because it just got to a point where you're like, this is getting silly now, I don't want this game anymore? But anyways, I've been GNG News. You guys have been my lovely audience. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on post notifications if you haven't done already. I will catch up with you all in another episode real soon. Peace.